Testing 1, 2. Okay. All right, so we are live, guys. What's going on? Donnie Rouse here, and this one was inspired by a workshop I had just participated in. And I'm just going to go into it, but I'll kind of do a little tease before we get going. This is about following that inspiration. When you're feeling passion, when you're feeling inspired, taking action, but also understanding where you get caught up. Sometimes you get caught up by sharing those dreams with a family member or someone who can't see your vision. And as a result, sometimes you restrict back because you think that it's not possible. But if you were feeling inspired, when you're feeling excited about it, then you were meant to go for it. So without further ado, hi guys, my name is Donnie Rouse, and you are listening to the podcast, One Life. Be decisive. Have you ever been in a state where you felt extreme excitement and inspiration towards a certain outcome or a decision that had to be made? In that moment, what did you do? Did you make the decision? Did you put that decision off? Whatever you did, I want you to just understand, or just tell me, what was the outcome? What did you get as a result of the action you took or did not take? The intention of this podcast here is to understand that in those moments of inspiration, that is the real you. That is your God essence shining through, saying, this is the direction I want to move. And you know that by the heightened emotion that you're feeling in that moment. What follows will determine how you move towards that. And if you move towards that. So before we go any further, I want you to recognize these moments in your day, because these are little gems. These are your North Star, your light tower guiding your way. And look in your history just to see how you respond, because once you see how you respond in the past, then you can notice it and figure out, all right, well, what action do I have to take in the future to get me to where I want to go? So let's look at something in the past where you felt inspired. Think of one experience. In the past, what was that experience that gave you that inspiration, that made you excited? Next, what was the action you took, if any? If the desire was to book a trip to, I'll use an example just because I always use it, to Naples, Italy, because you saw someone who was eating that pizza and you're like, oh my God, that looks amazing. I want to go there. I am going to book the trip. What were the thoughts immediately after that? What action did you take or didn't take? And then next, after you took or did not take the action, what were the emotions out after that? Because those emotions, the emotions that you feel prior and post, are really the essence of life. Emotion is life. I was watching a webcast and Blake Shelton was talking, and he was giving the example of his wife and her prescription glasses. He was saying how he was with his wife and she had this new set of glasses she had on. And she gave them to him and he put them on. He says, honey, I can't see a thing out of them. And she goes, well, yeah, that's because they were made for me. Think about the vision you have for your life. Think about the people you share that vision with. Those things that you get excited about. What have their responses been, and how does it affect how you move forward? Often, you share these moments of inspiration, these moments of desire. And because someone can't see through your glasses, through your lenses, they may put it down and make you second guess the very thing that you want. And that's okay if they can't see it. because it's not their prescription. It's not their glasses. It's not their life. It is your life. Whenever that happens, it's important to remember to say, hey, you know what? That's fine. You can't see the vision because it's not your life. This is mine. Or you refrain from telling people your visions, your desires, your goals, who you don't believe, not necessarily that they don't love and support you, but that they can't see that because they know you for the you are. They can't see this greater vision that you have for yourself. So how does this relate in the context of taking decisive action? When you are feeling great about a action you want to take or an outcome that you want to achieve, it is in that moment that you have to take some kind of action, small or big, something that will move you forward and make you commit to another step or the very thing that you were excited about. Often this is called burning the bridge. One of the things I love the most is making a decision, booking an action that is unrefundable if you're booking a ticket to travel, or one that you can't resend back from. You can't take back. You must follow through. Because in those moments is when you're forced to push yourself. You're taking that moment of inspiration. You're catapulting yourself over your comfort zone. And all of a sudden, now you're somewhere else. You're taking a new action and you're moving forward. In my own life, I experience this a lot. And one of the things is with my living situation, I've been wanting to move for some time. But the thought of moving is one that scares me because there's a lot of unknown. When I think about leaving my hometown, leaving my friends, my family, everyone that is literally in that zone of comfort, I find it scary. Doubts will creep in on whether or not I can do it on my own, whether or not I can go to a place, thrive, and develop, find new friends, and there's all these doubts. But here's the thing I want you to understand more than anything is that when you're in a vacuum, you can't see beyond that. You need to get outside. Inspiration doesn't happen in a vacuum. The place I had been looking at was Miami. When I come back from my trip, I was in Italy for 4 weeks and I spent another week between Portugal and Miami. When I was in Miami, I was like, man, this place feels awesome. I love this place. When I came back and I was back in the routine, I started to second guess. I started to doubt the very thing that I wanted. Then talking to a therapist, I said, listen, well, this is what I want. This is what I'm feeling. And she had done something that I had actually done the day before, where you look forward. You look to the vision. You need a vision for your life. You need to know where you're going, or at the very least, some general sense as to where you're going. Because by knowing where you're going, you focus your energy. Does it mean you're going to hit your target? Not at all, but does it increase your chances? Tenfold. So now let's say, well, what happens if you don't have a vision for your life? What happens if you don't know where you're going? Where's your attention going to go? Your attention goes to the thing that you are afraid of. And if your attention is on the thing that you're afraid of, what are the chances of you hitting that target? 100%, because you're going to drive in the direction of your focus. So in this exercise, she's like, all right, well, let's imagine yourself 20 years out. And imagine you wait, you stayed here, and then you took that action 20 years later. How would that feel? And then the feeling in my body is like, oh my God. I was like, that would suck. I was like, oh my, no, there's no way I'll wait that long. Last night I did a similar exercise where rather than looking from the lens of putting it off and not taking the action, which will put you in a state of realizing, well, what pain is there in not taking action? The other side is, well, looking, what is there to gain? And the exercise I did the night before was looking at going a year out, looking at your ideal life. Like you could have it any way. You're a year out in the future and you are living the life you want to live. What does that look like? And when you're going through all the emotions, that is your why. That is the reason for you to take the action. The thing is, you have to remember that. You have to keep that in the forefront of your mind. Because if you don't, again, focus on the target, you are focusing on the thing that you don't want, and that is not going to take you to the place you want to be. So where are you going? And how can you get yourself to take a decisive step to move you in that direction? I'll give you a few of those examples here. The first is to maybe get someone who will hold you accountable, a friend who will cheer you on. In the past, I had done many trips like this. Whenever I was like hemming and hawing about booking a trip, I would literally be on the site and I'd be talking to a friend. I'm like, should I book it? This happened when I went to Nepal. I'm like looking at the site. I'm like, should I book it? Should I not book it? Oh my God, flights are $700. And I was going back and forth. And I had one of my friends was like, yo, my God, cheering me on. Book it, book it, book it. And then I am booking it. And then, a week later, I was like, what the fuck did I do? Oh my God, what if I die on Mount Everest? But it was booked and I booked it non-refundable. So there was no way I could turn back. So the accountability was one. Secondly, getting outside of your habitual space or way of living. It is very important for me to constantly get outside my environment because when I'm here at home, I'm usually podcasting, I'm usually doing something, and I'm literally in my office/bedroom. And when I'm here, I tend to stay here for quite a while and not move very much, right? And I constantly have to remind her, but even when I get outside, I run into my routines. All right, let me go to the gym. Let me go shopping. Let me do my food prep. And before I know it, I haven't left any time in for get out of the ordinary. I hadn't left time to add some variety into my life. And I tell you this because it is in the variety that you get the inspiration where you start to see things differently. Because you're shutting off the mind. Your mind is now focused on something else, and all of a sudden, boop, something inspirational pops in. I mean, I guess you can kind of get the same thing when you're brushing your teeth, taking a shower. You'll get these inspirations. You're like, oh my God, that's really, really great. I got to write this down because you're doing some kind of mindless activity where your mind's allowed to kind of reorganize itself. But it works really well when you get outside of your day-to-day living. For me, that is usually traveling somewhere, doing a trip where all of my habits are blown away and like my perception is wide open. All of a sudden, I start to see things differently. And then lastly, journal. Do an exercise, a brain dump. Because by putting it on paper, you will start to see patterns in your way of thinking. You'll start to see what you want, but also what you think is holding you back. And when you see what is holding you back, then you can start to break down, all right, well, does everybody see it this way? Right? If you're like, oh, well, I can't do this because I am stuck in my business. Well, would everyone see it this way? Because your perception, you have to understand, your perception is only one perception. There are many different perceptions. If you ask 10 different people, they're all going to give you a different opinion, a different way of seeing what you feel your problem is. And when you get outside of your bias, the lens in which you're seeing the world, and you see it from these other angles, now all of a sudden you have more options. So those are 3 ways in which you can start to look at your life slightly differently in terms of what you want and start to take a different action. Again, so just to reiterate, and go back to the center. I mean, the center. Well, yeah, I guess we are going to the center. To go back to the main point I was trying to make, think of a time where you got inspired. Think of what happened after that. Did you take an action to move towards that inspiration, or did you sit down, not take any action? And I want you to understand what immediately followed. If you took the action, there's no doubt in my mind you felt excited, you felt alive because you were moving towards something that you wanted, something that had value, something that was important to you. If you did not make a decision and failed to make a decision in the next couple hours, days, weeks after, I know how you felt there too. You felt retracted, you felt small, you felt like you didn't have the ability to respond and change. But you do. And I want you to take all of this, right? It's easy to think of life in the framework of all your desires, the things you want. But what I want you to understand, and this is also something I have to constantly remind myself, and one of the reasons why I'm saying it right now is to remind myself, is that life is happening right now in this moment. Every day you are creating your life. And it's not to say to make you anxious or worried about what is it you're creating, but rather than just to slow you down and realize how beautiful this moment is. To realize that it's not a straight line. It's everything, it's anything but that. If you were to draw this line on paper, it literally you could scribble circles and zigzags. That is the line. But as long as you are focused on what your outcome is, you're going to make your way there, so long as you don't give up. But in that journey to the thing you want, don't miss out on what's important to you. And what's important to you is the stuff that's surrounding you every moment of your day, is the gift of even being alive, taking a breath. Let's not forget how lucky we are to be here for another day. Because there are many people who would give anything to be in your shoes, to have youth by their side, to be given a second chance, to be able to walk, to be around the people they love. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope that next time you become aware of when you're in this heightened state of inspiration, that you notice that, okay, I am in this state. Let me take an action to move me towards my goals, my desires, because I realize that it is the emotion that allows me to take an inspired action. It allows me to take bigger actions to move me forward. If you like this podcast, please consider subscribing. Hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments you would like to send me, you can do so by visiting my website at www.donnierouse.com. Again, www.donnierouse.com. And if you would like help getting clarity around what that means, what every category is for your life, and creating a framework so this way you're not swayed by everything else that's going around in your world, but now you're so focused, because when you're focused on what it is that you want, now all of a sudden your brain starts filtering out everything that comes in. Saying, nope, don't need this, don't need this. Yes, that's pertinent. Don't need this. And the stuff that doesn't matter starts to fade away. So you deserve to live the life you love. You deserve to live the life of your dreams. That is my intention for you. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it makes a difference in your day and in the actions that you take for your life. Because remember, you only get one life. Live it. God bless, and I will see you again.